Korea, and half of them were given to Ho Chi Minh. Because what took place at the end of World War II was a meeting that Prouty was privy to, where the four of them got together and talked, and Prouty refers to the elites being even who's above them. Now, who's above Stalin, who's above Roosevelt, who's above Churchill, who knows? But apparently it scared these people with the nuclear bomb so bad that they decided at that point, according to Prouty, that all wars from then on would be fought in third world countries. They would have no direct objective for victory for the military. And when you look over the past 50 years, that's exactly what has happened. So, you know, the truth is in what happened. And when you look at it, it's exactly what Fletcher Prouty talked about.
You know, of course, I don't know what to think of all the specifics. I mean, I read what you wrote, and it's interesting and compelling in many ways. But, you know, for those who are skeptical, then you look at Iraq. We sold them weapons. Donald Rumsfeld sold them weapons and then invaded Iraq for an indefinite war with no end to get rid of those weapons.
Yep. Well, we also did the same thing with Iran.
Well, we haven't invaded them yet, but...
Well, we haven't invaded them, but we've supplied Iran with massive amount of weapons to fight with, too. We supplied both Iran and Iraq with the weapons that they used against each other.
And the guy who set up Halliburton's office in Tehran, Iran, against American law, but he did it through a subsidiary in the Cayman Islands, was a guy named Dick Cheney.
Yeah.
So you look at this and you go, things that make me go, So we're talking to Governor Jesse Ventura. The book is American Conspiracies. It's also got a show on True TV. Governor, my thought is, in the old days when you had private corporations and private banks, and you had the Rothschilds and the Rockefellers, et cetera, you could do a smoke-filled room, right? But these days, in some ways, it is scarier, as you mentioned earlier, because they don't need the smoke-filled room, and they don't need to get together. I feel that since the advent of public corporations, the system self-selects the greedy, self-selects the people who are going to play ball. So if you need to have generals who are going to start wars or who are going to advocate for longer wars, well, it helps that they're going to get hired by the military-industrial complex later, after they retire.
Sure.
And that goes on and on for the bankers. Of course, if you're Nomi Prince at Goldman Sachs and you grow a conscience, well, you're no longer welcome there. And they look for someone who's not encumbered with a conscience, who can go ahead and buy politicians.
Always remember that in any war, regardless of big or small and where it takes place, there are people that profit tremendously from it. You know, there's money to be made at war. And that's one of the reasons I believe they fight them.
And now, finally, let me ask you about how it works in present day, too. Because you see people like Glenn Beck and O'Reilly and Hannity and the whole right-wing media push for the wars and push for deregulation of the banks, all the things that wind up helping these same guys. So, to put it in a kind of a funny way, do you think that they're in on it?
I don't know. I don't think they're directly in on it, but I think that the higher-ups are in on it. These are just the mouthpieces. You know, they're the ones that go out there and are the mouthpieces that we see. But clearly, I know, because when I had my short-lived thing with MSNBC, my biggest fight with them was they were telling me what subjects I had to cover. You know, it came down from upstairs, and these guys will deny it, but I know it's not true. All of the stuff comes down from upstairs, because if you look at all their shows, they all do the same topics. It's just a different guy's perspective of it.
So do you think that that's the same process of self-selection? So if Mike Maloney is a left-winger who rants on the left, well, he doesn't get hired by Roger Ailes because Roger Ailes isn't interested in that message on Fox News.
Yep.
But if you're pro-war and you do the same kind of rants, well, then you get hired by Fox News.
Yep.
If you're
the great example was myself. When I came out of office, I was the hottest commodity out there. I was the voice of the independent. I got CNN, MSNBC, and Fox got in a bidding war for me. MSNBC won. I went to do my show. They were putting together a 5-day-a-week show for me, and then all of a sudden a phone call came to one of my subordinates, and they said, "Is it true that the governor doesn't support the war in Iraq?" This was right before as the Iraq war was going on, getting ready to hype up. And they said, "No." There was a deadening pause at the other end. They said, "Does New Jersey know about this?" And the person said, I don't know. And then they said, is there a chance he'd change his mind? And this person had worked with me 4 years at the Capitol. He said, I don't think so, because he said the governor's pretty staunch when he gets, you'd really have to sway him. And the war ain't going to sway him. Well, it turned out they wouldn't put me on the air. They paid me for all 3 years. They pulled my show, and I sat and collected paychecks, and I couldn't say anything because my contract said I couldn't do any cable nor any news shows for 3 years.
That's really interesting, because that's exactly what they did to Ashley Banfield. When she made the speech against the Iraq War,
Yep.
They literally put her in a closet and
Yep.
paid the rest of her contract so she couldn't talk to anyone else.
Yep, and they did it also, if you recall, to Phil Donahue.
That's right.
They had just hired Phil. Phil was their highest-rated show, and they pulled him. Have you ever heard of a network pulling its highest-rated show? Never.
And
remember, this was at the time that MSNBC was trying to be Fox Light. They weren't liberal like they are now.
Right. So, I remember they put out a story at the time saying that you want to do the show from Mexico, and that's why they didn't want to do it.
That's a complete lie. All I did was I said I wanted to do the show from Minneapolis and my reasoning was this: not only was it my home and I didn't want to relocate and I had the power to do it, but second, I told them, look, all these shows take place on the East Coast and the West Coast. Why not get a Midwestern perspective for a change?
So, but then what happened there? Because, MSNBC...
They wouldn't put me on because of my opposition to the Iraq War.
I hear you, but so then MSNBC, you think, is not putting you on and not putting all those people on because they're against the Iraq War, but now their prime time, at least, not their morning, but their prime time is progressive. So what do you think changed?
Ratings. They finally realized they were never going to beat Fox. So then they made it. Well, if you saw, when Keith Olbermann first came on, he was conservative. Then all of a sudden he made a about-face 180 degrees and became a liberal.
I'm sure he would contest that.
Well, he might contest it, but at the moment he was hired, they were still a conservative station.
Let me ask you one more thing. When you were the governor, you say in the book that the CIA came and talked to you. What did they talk to you about?
Well, they asked if they could meet with me in the basement of the Capitol, and I agreed, and I went down there. There were 23 members of the CIA. All they wanted to know about was how I got elected.
Well, why do they care? They're not supposed to operate inside the United States.
Exactly. I asked them that. Well, I called my friend Dick Marcinko later because I was confused too. And do you know who Dick Marcinko is?
No.
Well, he writes all those Road Warrior books. He's the former commander of SEAL Team 6, friend of mine that is very well connected, operated Red Cell and all that. He's a true warrior. And I called Dick and I told him what happened, and Dick said, well, he said, I don't know, but I can give you my opinion. I said, tell me. He said, they didn't see you coming. So they're trying to learn how you won. Now, did they want to know to stop another independent from being elected? That's what I think it was for. So they could learn how I got elected so that they could attempt later to derail any other third-party candidates that could do what I did.
There's, of course, a theory that people, whoever they are not interested in people who don't play ball. You don't play ball. Elliot Spitzer didn't play ball. Eric Massa didn't play ball. Pete Stark didn't play ball. Ashley Banfield didn't play ball. And you begin to see a pattern here. Let's take Elliot Spitzer as an example. Do you think that was a coincidence that the bank happened to out him on those finances, or do you think that was part of a larger agenda?
I really don't know. I haven't studied the Spitzer, what happened to him, but I do know he was investigating things that I don't think they wanted him going into.
Yeah, well, that's certainly. I remember when he got.
And then, unfortunately for him, he decided to be a womanizer, and they nailed him. If you're going to take him on, you better make sure you got no skeletons in the closet.
Because they will come for you.
Well, absolutely. He's a prime example of it. They buried him over that thing, and he lost his governorship over it.
All right. Jesse Ventura's new book is American Conspiracies. You can check out a show on True TV as well. Governor Ventura, great having you on the Young Turks. Really
always a pleasure to be on, and keep up the good work and keep talking about stuff because, we still we're going to have to fight for our First Amendment rights here pretty quick. We've already lost the Fourth Amendment, illegal search and seizure, and they've taken away habeas corpus from us, and I can't believe President Obama hasn't reinstated that stuff and got rid of the Patriot Act.
Well, there are a lot of unbelievable things about the direction Obama's taken.
Yep. I think they got to him. Whoever they is.
All right, we're going to have to talk about that next time. That's a good topic. Governor Ventura, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you. My pleasure. Have a good one.
All right, you too.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Young Turks.